if you are passionate about an idea or a business opportunity that you're seeing, write it down. Just start there. Start writing it down and just keep track of it. And if you continue to come back to this and continue to research it, then I think that's a really good signal that you're ready to kind of take that next step.
Welcome back to the Family Wealth Edge. Kristen, how are you doing?
I'm great. You're in a new spot.
I am. And Matt, our producer, was teasing me about the shadow that's looming on half my face, but we'll work with it today as I get settled. Thank you.
Well, I
And
know
we're,
you've moved. Moving is no fun, so that's rough.
well, I thank you for your support over text messages the last few weeks because it's not fun, especially with two little boys. And we have a special guest today, Kristen, your colleague and friend, Rebecca Brown. Rebecca.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. If you would just kick us off by sharing a little bit about your background. You have such a varied and impressive background. So I think it'll be hard to actually narrow down. But if you could just give us some sense of where you've come from and also how you ended up at the place where you find yourself on the Family Wealth Edge today.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Well, Kristen and Vincent, it's so great to be here with you. Thank you for having me. So my background started in finance. I was working at Goldman Sachs in New York City, really enjoying that career, and ended up going to business school at Columbia Business School in New York City, where I got very into entrepreneurship and started multiple different businesses. One of them took on a life of its own. I went back to Goldman and continued to work on this particular business until I got to the point where I thought I had to give it 100% of my energy. So I left. And I started the brand Soulmates, which is a shoe and foot care brand for women. I invented a product because I was tired of having my high heels sink into grass at outdoor weddings and nothing existed for a solution. So I created one. I knew nothing about patents or inventing a product. I had only ever worked in finance. And so this was a very new territory. But like any true entrepreneur, you aren't fazed by that lack of knowledge. You just dive into it and learn because you're so passionate about your product or your business. So that's what I did. I started the business around that first product and then expanded into a variety of other shoe accessories and shoe care products. Ended up going on Shark Tank, which was an amazing experience, very surreal, very thrilling. And just built the business organically, did raise outside capital and expanded distribution internationally, had Oprah as a customer, like really an amazing experience. And along the way, I started a second business called Core Satellite Partners because I had people, friends, and sometimes not even friends, just individuals approaching me, asking me for help. How do I start a business? How do I invent a product? How do I go from, step 1 to step 10? So that is what led me to start Core Satellite Partners, which is a consulting and advisory boutique I've run for just about 10 years. And a lot of my work in the last several years has centered around supporting rising gen or next gen entrepreneurship. Because of my time working in wealth management and working directly with family offices in this space, I recognized that there was an opportunity to use entrepreneurship as a great vehicle for education and leadership development, especially for these rising gens. So Kristen and I connected through the family office community a few years ago and instantly hit it off around our passion to support next gen leaders. And this area of entrepreneurship is a true opportunity that I am incredibly passionate about.
Yeah, we see this a lot in our work with families. I'm curious to hear a bit of your story where you got the bug to be an entrepreneur and even an inventor. And then I wrote down, when did you know you needed to create something to fix your heels in the mud? Like, was there an actual night where you said, this is never happening again? So 2 questions. But we hear a lot of it and the added pressure of growing up in a successful financial family, usually based from entrepreneurs. It's such a timely topic that thankfully the two of you have come together. I think there's a new course coming out in the new year, Kristen, if I'm not speaking out of term.
Yes.
Yes.
When I got to know Rebecca, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to turn this into a peer group because, Vincent, as you know, you're hearing it too. So much interest in this topic. And it's not always easy even if you have a father or mother entrepreneur, they're not always the best one to guide you along your own entrepreneurial journey. And there's some complexities around when you have family capital available for your idea. So I think to specifically bring people who have these entrepreneurial ideas together with sort of the shared experience of having, family capital, being a rising generation family member is going to be really powerful. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Tell us more, Rebecca. Tell us about your experience in the family office space the last 10 years, what you're seeing with entrepreneurship with these young folks.
Yeah, it's a pivotal time. As we all know, we're going through the greatest wealth transfer in history. And that is a really important turning point for all families to make sure that the next generation is equipped with the leadership skills necessary to shepherd the family into the next era. And I believe that learning what it takes to build a business, a lot of times from scratch, is such a great way to learn. It's an amazing opportunity to work alongside family members in the existing family to the extent that in the existing family business to the extent that that exists, but every family is different, as we know, and to have the opportunity to cultivate entrepreneurship for the next gens really fosters confidence and identity. And to your point, Vincent, it is a great way to bridge to the previous generations because in most of these cases, the original entrepreneur of that family took a risk and built something. And so it's a great way to tie to the legacy of the family and becomes incredibly meaningful.
Yeah, and help them find their own identity, which we
That's right.
find is key, right? Because we get the rising gen oftentimes gets sucked into mom and dad's vision of the company, and we lose a bit of ourselves in that vision. So what a great idea. And we also, I mean, one of the things that you're hearing a lot about too in the space now is this idea of a family bank, where Kristen was talking about earlier, where the family has resources available. And because we are the byproduct of our environment, there's that entrepreneurial bug. And I love to hear more about the course and how you're structuring it. And you see that, like, where do you start? Often these kids are they're like where their present day is, and there's this enormous situation. The idea of actually starting something from ground zero is it's never really talked about, and the struggles that mom and dad had in building these things.
I think that's an important point, the struggles, and that's what we're creating within 3 generations, which is a framework and structure to be able to understand what to do next. So you have an idea, what is the first step? And that's what we're creating in our curriculum, 7 courses which really walk through each of those steps to take, and along the way, learning practical knowledge to be able to then use in that business or for future venture opportunities. So we're trying to equip these family members with the tools and the information necessary to make decisions about whether this is a viable business. And that's an important part because it's one thing to have an idea, it's another to execute on that and build a business around it. And that's what we're really focused on is giving the practical foundation to be able to do that.
And how often does it happen where, with the best of intentions, a family will be like, "Yeah, we do have this capital that's available here. Here you go. Here's $300,000 or whatever it is." And we know that, early stage businesses are likely to have struggles, often fail, but then it's almost like destined to fail if you've not also equipped this person to be able to know and anticipate some of the challenges and help them, I think, at least have the level of knowledge that is available to them, right? There's a lot of intellectual capital available, as much financial capital is available, but a lot of times people don't really know how to leverage that to put this person on the best possible footing to be successful. And then they
That's
fail and how horrible that feels, right?
That's exactly right. It is a very lonely path when starting a company as an entrepreneur. And so, one of the other benefits that we have in creating this curriculum with a small cohort is creating that community of trust and support because it can be challenging. And, Tristan, to your earlier point, it can be very hard to go to mom or dad or to the family office and present an idea if there isn't sort of that infrastructure in place to support entrepreneurship. So, what we're really trying to build with the curriculum is that confidence and the core requirements to even be able to present something to the family or to the family office, but also to have the support of the community, which is what each of our participants will gain over the series as we work together and look at various different business ideas.
And,
Fascinating.
and giving them the opportunity to sort of critique, I guess, maybe each other before they have to go in front of the family office or mom and dad or Aunt Becky and have that critique as well.
What
Yes.
and it's such a great addition to the in three gens groups, because what Kristen and I have been doing for the last 8 years is really trying to cultivate this competence and confidence in a space where it's non-judgmental. And I am super excited to see what the two of you create and how it can impact the rising gen going forward. Rebecca, where do you think, right? So, a rising gen comes to you or has an idea. Where do they get stuck most? Where do you think they get stuck most?
I think it's the taking action part, and I think a lot and this is every situation is different, but I think one of the things I've seen frequently is that taking the action, because it's scary. It's hard to especially if there isn't an existing culture of entrepreneurship within the family and within the family office. So that individual sort of becomes an outlier, and it can be scary because you are you're sort of going on your own path, and that requires a lot of confidence and conviction and support, and sometimes it's overwhelming and can be a deterrent to actually taking that next step, taking that action to present, or maybe incorporating or choosing a co-founder. Any of those sort of early stage steps, those are actions, and I see that sometimes it becomes a little overwhelming to get to that point.
I also think maybe there's mindsets here. I wonder if you've heard this come up in your coaching. And the way that I relate to this is I remember when I wrote my first book, and there was a track inside of my mind that was like, oh, this is like inheritor stuff. Like now I feature myself to be an author. Like how eye rollish am I that like I just think I could do anything. And I mean, every entrepreneur, I think early stage is struggling with the imposter syndrome that comes from this big mountain that you have in front of you of turning this idea into reality. And so I think especially for people, for rising generation family members, some of those tracks can play a little harder around, oh my gosh, like I'm going to try to step into my grandmother's shoes here. Like this is a lot, and we can talk ourselves right out of it. Do you see that in your coaching? Some of those mindsets? Is that
Absolutely, and I think one thing you said too is that we're all sort of wired to fall back on our habits, our patterns that we already have sort of installed in ourselves for however, many years, and so when we do something that's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes we just choose to sort of go back because it just feels not quite the right timing, and it doesn't feel right, and I think that's part of why I started doing the coaching and the support is I saw that as a need to give that confidence and the opportunity to create one's identity and connect with the family legacy, but also give the practical skills to even decide, is this a business that this person could actually create and build, and what are the capital requirements around that, all of the specific things that go into starting a business. It's easy to sort of get overwhelmed when you start thinking about that because there's a lot of work to do. But why I started really focusing on this specific demographic is because I think it's a really important opportunity, and I see the impact it has when that individual gets that confidence and has the business plan and presents it to the investment committee or to the family, and there's, a great reception to it, and they go forward and actually take those next steps. That is the most satisfying because they've taken the risk, they've put themselves in that sort of uncomfortable zone, but they push forward, and it creates this incredible sense of self-confidence and identity, and it compounds. It just starts sort of rolling to the next phase of the business.
Yeah. What a well thought out idea.
Mhm.
It's family owned companies globally are the major drivers of GDP. Like that's a fact. So you look at these family systems that we participate in, and there's this often obligation to work in family opco, right? Versus, I know, Kristen, you had this experience recently. I know when I was working at the bank 15 years ago, there's like a different feeling of there's got to be something more for me in this world to do with my work. And then you look up and you realize we're the sons and daughters of business owners. I want to get a bit of where your passion comes from, Rebecca. And it's no different in these families. I had a conversation with a family today where there's almost an insistence on the kids coming into the business. And you're going, well, why? Like, where, son or daughter has an idea to do a completely different venture. In some situations, it's almost looked as like disrespect to the family wealth versus if we can help the individuals be happy and successful and regenerate or create a new endeavor for themselves, for the family, for the community, what a trifecta of wins for everybody. Share a little bit more about you, Rebecca, and where this passion comes from.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because that's it. I've enjoyed that satisfaction myself from building a business and seeing, what goes into it. And when I recognize that desire in someone else, I want to nurture that. I really do. And it means a lot. And it's, yes, we have all these great technological resources and all the AIs and stuff, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the person that has to execute on the business. And you can't really get that through an AI. You have to have a belief in yourself and a belief in an opportunity that you're passionate about. And then you need to figure out the roadmap to realize that and make it a reality. So it's something that just comes from deep within me. I have always been an innovative and entrepreneurial focused person. And I just have a true passion for this. And I just see how when I've coached a rising Gen family member and they go through this process, they emerge as a different person on the other side, whether that business becomes their thing for the next 10 years or they realize what it takes to run a business and then they go work for the family enterprise. Like
Yeah.
that's great. That's the best outcome.
Yeah. They appreciate what's involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I love how you've talked too, Becca, about how, I mean, sort of even at a negative outcome, or like, say that someone goes through a program with you and they decide, turns out my business idea is not necessarily as viable as I thought, or it turns out I don't want to do what is involved to actually make this business work. That's great because along the way, they've actually learned so many skills that they're going to bring into back to their family, right? They are going to understand how to read financial statements better. They're going to have a better understanding for what's happening in their own family enterprise. So it's almost like even if it doesn't turn out exactly how they anticipated it would turn out, I end up, making millions with my idea. It's almost like still been a benefit to them.
Completely a benefit, and I have to emphasize it's the tie to the family legacy too, and the family identity, the family story, and that's a bridge that I think as the generations expand is such an important one to continue to develop because, of course, statistically, as the family goes on and in time and expands, it's harder to keep that sort of authentic story and the legacy, and I believe that this entrepreneurship path is a great bridge, a great connector, and it reinforces the origin story of the family.
Yeah. And creates the new generation of entrepreneurs.
Right.
And there's all these models that talk about that the wealth, not only financial, spiritual, intellectual, human, and social, needs to regenerate too. There's an author, a famous author in our space named Tom Deans, who wrote Every Family Business, probably wrote it 15 years ago. And he's a bit punchy too, Tom, and I've known him for a long time. But he has a great quote that says, "Don't gift your kids the business, gift them the gift of entrepreneurialism." And that's like, wow. So, Rebecca, if you can give us one or two takeaways for today, some advice to the rising gens, where we can find you, and maybe a little bit more on the cohort that you and Kristen are launching in the new year.
Would love to. So I think the takeaways are if you are passionate about an idea or a business opportunity that you're seeing, write it down. Just start there. Start writing it down and just keep track of it. And if you continue to come back to this and continue to research it, then I think that's a really good signal that you're ready to kind of take that next step. And the second would be to just have belief in yourself and know that this is going to have a positive impact on your learning trajectory, whether it becomes a business or if it's just the act of starting something. And that is such a great learning opportunity. And also segue into our collaboration within 3 Generations. Our entrepreneur cohort will be kicking off in January, and it would be a great opportunity if you do have an idea, no matter how early, it can be a very, very early stage idea or concept. We would welcome you to be part of this incredible group and to learn with us over the 7 sessions series and leave with a tangible set of skills and also tangible products and materials to be able to take that and present it to your family or to your family office. So it is a very focused curriculum, but it's also going to be very rewarding. And I would welcome family members to check us out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think we're ready to take registrations by the time that this episode launches. We'll be ready to take people who are ready to get started. And you know what, Vincent? I'm inviting one of my own children, my entrepreneurial son. I don't know if he'll take me up on it. It's his choice, right?
Well,
But
we'll have to film an episode of what it was like to be in a cohort with one of your two beautiful boys.
I mean,
Okay.
you might need to hear from him, right? He'll be like,
We'll
oh
do
my
both.
gosh,
We'll have them on.
oh my gosh.
We'll do a
We'll
follow-up.
see.
Rebecca, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. I think it's an amazing idea that you guys are curating. I look forward to learning more about it. Look forward to being of service to the two of you. Kristen, dear friend and colleague, another episode of the Family Wealth Edge.
Awesome. Thanks to you both.
Thank you.